This is your Saturday Night Showdown. Discussing all tonight's topics, my brilliant panel joining me tonight are Suzie Kennedy, Chloe Dobbs and Andrew Eborn. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong. I'm joined tonight by Chloe Dobbs, Suzie Kennedy and Andrew Eborn. Now, Andrew, I've got to ask you, what have you made of the ongoing post office scandal?
Well, I think it's extraordinary. We've got these dodgy stamps as well going on now, which all flooded in from China just to make it a bit more tempting for the post office. It's all coming out, isn't it? And they're sort of apologising that they sort of were rejoicing at the fact people got convicted. But I think it's taken too long, hasn't it? And it took an ITV drama just to get it back on the radar of people, which is crazy.
Yeah, so for years, people have known that, you know, this scandal was going to break, this scandal was ongoing, but it didn't really burst into the public consciousness until somebody made a drama series about it. I mean, is this what we're going to have to do for all miscarriages of justice now?
But with the post office scandal, you've got people having to fight tooth and nail to get a few quid off the government for having their lives completely ruined. Just give them the money, make Fujitsu pay for it, and get this sorted with now.
I have also bought all the TV rights to all scandals in history, and that's why I was down in Cannes.
Who's going to play Nigel Farage?
Well, I think Nigel himself, now that we've seen a lot of him in the jungle, I'm sure he'd love to play himself. I think there's a few people who do it really well. I think Martin Sheen plays everybody brilliantly, so I would definitely get him lined up. But I was down in Cannes, as you know, looking at TV festivals, and formats about scandals are really hot at the moment.
Well, of course, they just had a big successful one.
Phenomenal for ITV. But it's outrageous that it took a scandal on ITV to expose the whole thing on that sort of basis. Same with the blood scandal. You know, the tainted blood, how long did that take to sort out? And they're still working on that basis. So the more we can shine a spotlight in the media on the stuff, the better.
Yeah, Suzie, what do you make of this? I mean, I feel like that, you know, this guy who made these comments, they're sort of trying to make almost a scapegoat out of him. I mean, it wasn't just him. There was, like, the Fujitsu, there was...
I've got to be honest, I don't know what you're talking about. I thought the post office scandal was £1 to send a card. Like, what? I said, here's a card to send my mum. And they were like, that's £1.20. I was like, are you taking it there yourself? That is the biggest scandal.
I'll tell you what's worse, though, Suzie. I'll tell you what's worse. Is if you use one of these dodgy stamps, you then get charged a £5 to receive the letter because they don't honour the stamp. So you're not only paying
Andrew? Sounds like someone who knows.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's only a fiver fine for using a dodgy stamp. I mean, that's not much more than actually paying for a real stamp.
Well, exactly. I think I'm going to go with that. Thanks, Andrew. I'll pay... don't send me any letters.
It's in the post.
I'm super disorganised, so I always have to send everything first class because I've left it until the day before to send my mother a present. So, and then it normally ends up costing about 20 quid to just send her a birthday card. I spend far more money on the postage than do on the actual card.
This is why Amazon are doing so well, because it's actually cheaper just to send them something from Amazon than to send them an actual card.
No, I do everything on Amazon. Sometimes you can even get it sent the same day if you've forgotten about their birthday until the day.
Send it from Deliveroo, it's got to be good. But you're right, it's crazy. And people are not using letters anymore anyway. So the whole idea about the scandal and the profits going down, that's the big issue. But you need to deliver it somewhere. If you can get that perfect, delivered on time, same-day delivery.
My neighbour delivers my parcels. So I think she might be a little Christmas squeeze.
And another big story that's come up recently is Scotland passed the Hate Crime Act, which is this, you know, authoritarian law that criminalises even private speech.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. So you can speak in your home about this sort of stuff. And all praise to J.K. Rowling, as in bowling, for coming out and testing it. Because as a lawyer, what you want is certainty. And the police made the absolute crazy thing and say, we're going to investigate every single complaint. So what are you going to do with the rest of it? So, of course, people are going to bring out vendettas and so on and so forth to make that a problem. But J.K., she went out straight away, well, let me test this. I will name virtually everybody and say a trans woman is still a man and all that sort of stuff on that sort of basis. And she named lots of different people and said, well, come and arrest me. And they sort of turned around, I don't want to do that because you're too popular. And so they turned around and they clarified the law. There's got to be that intention.
Because it's such a vaguely worded law.
Well, it should have been clear from the outset. This is the problem. The reason why it's so dangerous is because it's vague. Everyone's there, you know, what they're saying might be legal, but they don't know if it's legal. So everyone's just going to shut their mouth and say absolutely nothing and live in fear.
I always say it's freedom of speech, which is fundamental, but not freedom from consequences. So if there is genuine hate and you're stirring up hatred, that's a different thing. But everybody must have an opinion and be able to state that opinion.
Yeah, we've already got laws against incitement to violence and things like that. So, I mean, this seemed like an unnecessary law, and like nobody understood it. And
they could just enforce the existing law.
8,000, yeah, they could enforce the existing law, and 8,000 complaints in its first week.
The thing is that it's not like they're giving the police a load more resources to actually, because they have to investigate every single one of those complaints that comes through. So that's time and resources that could be spent actually fighting real crime.
Actual crime. Imagine that, police actually combating real crime, Suzie.
There are probably people going around everywhere stabbing people thinking we can get away with it because they're all busy investigating Hum's are useless.
Hams are useless. I like that.
That's
I think it should be, if everyone just said, come and arrest me for a hate crime, like you should have had a hate crime for reading that auto cue before.
Well, hey, look at that. Look at the puns. The puns.
This is why we owe a debt to J.K. Rowling, because she, I mean, I guess she's...
Is it Rowling or Rowling?
You know, if she gets sent down, she could probably buy Scotland and free herself, you know what I mean? She could appoint herself
she should.
Queen of Scotland. She's that rich. But she really put her neck on the line and said, and she didn't just say herself, she didn't just, you know, ostensibly breach or potentially breach the act herself. She said, if any woman out there wants to, you know, state biological reality, I will repeat it. So if they try and take you down, they take me down as well.
It totally was 2 fingers up and say, look, I'm over here. I've got to say all of this. Come and test it on that basis. So all credit to J.K. Rowling working on that basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, probably.
Did you like that?
I'm a bully. I'm a horrible bully.
A terrible bully.
Send me to prison. Me and J.K. Rowling will have a great time together there.
Well, coming up, we will assess the week's winners and losers in Kearse or Blessed. This week, offering a seat to an older person is age discrimination, and Afghanistan is the new land of the free. And we'll show you what happens when water sports go wrong. Don't worry, this isn't from a dodgy German VHS tape your dad got off a taxi driver. This is safe for TV. See you in a couple of minutes. Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Kearse or Blessed coming up, but first I promised I would show you what happened when water sports go wrong. Oh my God, that's a double fail. I really feel for that guy. Like, even have a beer to...
Could have been worse, could have been between his legs.
Cracking ribs, not beers. I'll tell you what, they're working overtime on the pun department in the gallery today, aren't they? I love it. The pun is mightier than the sword. Cracking ribs, not beers. There you go, I love it.
It's now time to go through the winners and losers of the week. Offering a chair to an older colleague at work could count as age discrimination, an employment judge has ruled. Being given the opportunity to sit while younger staff stand could count as less favourable treatment, a tribunal concluded. Philippe Idrera, a 66-year-old recycling plant operative, sued Severn Waste Water Service in Worcester after his manager, Idris Buemo, asked him if he wanted a chair when he had not asked for one. The hearing was told Mr. Idrera replied he did not want one. Mr. Buemo did not give a reason for the offer, though there was nothing unpleasant or rude about the way in which he asked the question. I mean, this seems ridiculous. He's 66. His colleagues were worried about his health. I mean, would you be offended if somebody offered you a chair?
No, absolutely not. I'd be very grateful. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. It seems like you can be sued for absolutely anything. You'll be sued for, probably be sued for breathing on someone at this rate. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is the sort of equality act that's supposed to be there to make sure people are treated well. But in this case, Andrew, it seems to be that it's actually getting rid of chivalry and getting rid of manners.
There are nuances to this story which are slightly missed in the sort of headlines. What I love is this person's called a recycling
We don't
plan.
want nuance. We don't want nuance in this show. I've already formed an opinion off the first 3 words.
But we missed the recycling plan operative. What the hell is that? It's like somebody in charge of a dishwasher as an aquatic engineer. I mean, it's nonsense. What the story, however, is they sort of turn around and say he was 66. They normally push them out of work when they're 66.
Well, he was worried. He was worried that they had this plan to get rid of him because he's 66. He had this idea that, you know, 66 was the age at which they tried to get people out the door.
Yes, exactly. 3 chairs, hip, hip. So you're working on that sort of basis. What I loved about it, they said the fact that he was offered a chair was that discriminatory because nobody else was offered a chair. And he was moved from recycling paper prefer to recycling plastic, which is why he might have needed a chair for a bit longer. It's all a really rather weird story. But I think the principle is the headline. If you're offering her a chair, it's gone out of society. We were discussing it earlier.
Yeah.
You need to offer chairs to people. You need to be able to open doors to people. It's about politeness. I was brought up that way, weren't you?
Offering people a seat on the tube. I mean, imagine being convicted after offering somebody a seat on the tube or opening a door for a woman.
I know. Well, I always tell people they should stand up and offer people a seat on a tube.
Yeah.
I don't do it, but
Yeah.
I
You
tell
just
other people
point at other
to
people
do
on the
it.
tube
Yeah.
and say, you should stand up.
Yeah, you should offer that woman a seat. And also, this is the thing: is all you know, everyone. You don't know what. Like, I need to sit down a lot.
Yeah.
Because I'm lazy. So it's important.
So do you want laziness to be now classed as a sort of medical condition? That means that you should wear a badge that says
I'm lazy.
That's a great idea.
Have you seen that in the X Factor when she goes, "What do you do for a living?" She went, "Well, I don't do nothing because I'm lazy." Like that literally is. You know, I think that's an option. I am lazy.
You could even have a category at the Paralympics for lazy people who have to stop halfway through the marathon.
Oh, that's a great idea. I love that.
This is what we need. This is the Lazy Olympics.
Sounds pretty woke to me. You have all these feminists who get all angry if like a man offers to just carry their bag for them. Or something.
I'm a feminist. Carry my bag.
It's really dangerous. But
are you suggesting that I can't carry my own bag?
Yeah.
Well, I have heard that some women don't like it when a man opens a door for the woman because they think the man is using it as a reason to have a look at the woman's posterior.
Is that why you do it?
I can possibly see.
But it's so wrong, isn't it? And I think in today's society, it's all about starting to say from the media, we can turn around. It's great to offer a seat to people who might need it. Yeah. It's great to open a door, to be polite. It's good to sort of ask people how they are to speak. We should get back to those days and stop this woke nonsense.
Chivalry needs to come back. Moving on, Joe Wicks has sparked controversy by linking ADHD to ultra-processed foods, prompting a backlash from one of the UK's top ADHD charities. Joe blames ultra-processed junk for the explosion of children, not literal explosion of children, with ADHD, as he reveals he ran on sugar as a kid and thinks that his love of sugary snacks such as Sunny Delight, Wagon Wheels and jam sandwiches, that was my packed lunch today, caused his behavioural issues. The charity ADHD UK has issued a statement slamming Wicks for his comments, and I wonder how long it took them to compose that email. I would like to condemn... Oh, a squirrel! I mean, Suzie, there does seem to be an issue now with... there's been a huge increase in the number of people being diagnosed with ADHD and things like that. I know many of my friends have been diagnosed. They mainly did it because during lockdown they were bored, had too much time to sit around thinking and overanalyzing themselves, or because if you get diagnosed with ADHD, you get what's essentially prescription grade speed off the NHS.
Legally.
Yeah, legally, from a doctor.
I mean, come on. And we were just talking about comedians who will remain nameless that are, all got ADHD because they've got legalised drugs, but they're not funny.
Yeah. Well,
we should put them on a diet of wagon wheels. I think this is go back. That's the recipe for things. But he's right, though. Actually, what you put into your body is reflecting what you put out. So there's an honest answer about that.
You agree with Joe Wicks here?
I absolutely. It might not be controversial. But I hate labels. The fact that you've got to slap a label on something. Right. It's a useful diagnosis if you're going to help get a cure or treat people or offer them a chair. You can work on that sort of basis. But there are problems. If you put a lot of sugar into your body, it's not good for you.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, so, like ADHD is about having an attention span problem, and there are various different things that go into that. So, for example, kids sitting on TikTok all day is destroying their attention span. That leads to more ADHD diagnoses. Filling yourself with sugar that gives you energy for a minute and then makes you crash, and then you can't do any of your work because you're all lazy. Yeah. Then that's going to lead to an ADHD diagnosis. There are a load of different factors that go into it, but he's oversimplified it by just saying it's just the food.
It's not the only cause. And what I also love is his trip down memory lane. Your Sunny Delights. I don't know if you still do those. The wagon wheels used to be enormous when I was a boy.
Yeah. That was an actual wagon.
It's shrinkflation.
How small were you as a child? Maltesers now.
Because you had little hands.
I probably had little hands.
And curly whirlies as well.
Oh, yes, don't talk about that
You
personal
could use
problem.
a curly whirly as a ladder to paint the house.
Wasn't that lovely? And the walnut whips, I used to like those.
Yeah,
do you remember the Milky Bars are on me? Do they still have this stuff?
They still have a lot of that stuff.
Nostalgia's not what it used to be.
I should probably point out that ADHD UK have said that Joe Wicks is wrong long about this idea of you know, sugar causing ADHD, and they should know because they're ADHD UK. They probably know about ADHD.
But sugar is actually a stimulant as well.
It is a stimulant.
So wouldn't that help people with ADHD?
And some doctors have said that sugar is almost like a drug because there's
yes, it is.
In the wild there's
Some
not
doctors are
many
right.
opportunities to actually get sugar.
Wagon wheels.
You know, you get like there's not many wagon wheels
in the wild.
There's no wagon wheels in the wild. There's no curly whirlies. You sometimes get some bees nest.
Curly whirl is a great name. I love it.
You know, then you've got to eat some wax and get stung by some bees as well. So it's not quite the same as just having a Mars bar. But anyway, my attention span.
Or a marathon or a Snickers. That's the argument, isn't it? It's
Snickers or marathons? Absolutely.
It's got to be a marathon. I get out of breath just eating one. Anyway, my attention span has reached its limit for that topic. Let's move on to the next one. British Muslim clerics who embarked on a so-called fact-finding mission to Afghanistan have praised the beautiful Taliban leaders for instilling freedom in the country. The imams travelled to Afghanistan last summer as part of a trip organised by Prosper Afghanistan, a UK-based NGO that seeks to support rebuilding initiatives and the human aid and advocacy group. Speaking at Queen Mary University of London, one of the delegates, Sheikh Haitham al-Haddad, defended the Taliban's harsh restrictions on women, claiming that Western criticism is nothing more than propaganda designed to demonise the Islamists. He said Western secular influences were being driven into the minds of the students who were speaking against the Sharia, and many vices were creeping in. When it is time to rebuild the country, we cannot tolerate division, and therefore temporary suspension of liberal secular education took place. The restrictions that he's praising are that girls over the age of 12 have been excluded from education, beauty salons have been banned, women are barred from many workplaces as well as barred from public spaces and gyms, and women can't travel without a male guardian. Progressive. I mean, Andrew, will you be holidaying in Afghanistan?
I've already booked my trip.
It sounds like a man's country.
Well, it does, doesn't it? Well, what they were talking about, the other side of it, they were actually talking about security and say it's one of the most peaceful times there at the moment.
I mean,
but you're absolutely
right.
right.
But that has to be seen in context.
It totally has to be seen
not
in
being
context.
very peaceful for a long time.
And it's the second anniversary of when the handover to the Taliban and stuff like that. But you're right. Security on one hand, getting rid of women's rights on the other is not a good balance. And we still need to shine a spotlight on that. I think it's scandalous for a certain point of views. We need to encourage education around the world.
Well, do you think I should ask the women on the panel what they think?
I would open the door for them to walk out. Just to be polite. What are you talking about? But I'll offer them a seat.
Women aren't allowed to speak, obviously, of course. Yeah, sounds like freedom to me, of course. The very typical cop-out to get out of an argument is, oh, it's just fake news, it's just the Western media making up this rubbish. Like, you have these idiots saying, oh, October 7th, it didn't really happen, it's just fake news in the press.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely bonkers. And these Afghans are now, it looks like, the most prominent group coming across on the small boats. And Afghanistan,
oh, really?
Afghanistan, yeah, since we've changed things with the Albanians, Afghans now look like, with the latest data we have, the most prominent group. And then
so these values are going to be coming to the
Yeah,
UK.
so if you go to the Women's Peace and Security Index, Afghanistan, guess where they rank in the world out of 177 countries included?
I don't know.
177 out of 177 for their treatment of women. So, yeah, it sounds like freedom to me, and sounds like a beautiful Afghanistan, as they've called it.
And we've got the 8 clerics on screen there. There they are.
In the studio? Are they coming?
Yes,
And here they are now. Please welcome.
Do you reckon they'd come in?
Do you think this is Taliban-bananas?
But I like one of their policies. I want.
What's that policy?
And that last policy that we should all have a male chaperone, because in London, that's violence. I want a male chaperone everywhere I go. I love that one, Taliban. You can bring that one here.
Well, maybe we'll get it here. Who knows? Anyway, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, the RSPCA asked for a bit of RESPECT. That's respect.
I
love
loved
that
it.
from the song. Plus, I'll show you what happened when a man tries a really big jump. Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Tickle versus Giggle is coming up. That's the boxing match you don't want to miss. But first, I promised I would show you what happened when a man tried a really big jump. My
Where's
God.
it gone?
He's disappeared into the ground.
I love the fact that Leo Kearse show is now sponsored by personal injury lawyers. Every single there's a pattern every week in this, isn't there?
That looked more than personal injury lawyers. That was. I mean, he's obviously
that was
set it
gone.
up so he can go. You know, like you get these what are they called, free runners?
Yes.
The parkour.
Yes.
He's jumped into a hardcore parkour. He's jumped into a hole there.
He's disappeared into one of those tunnels that were discovered under New York.
Yeah, or maybe a Hamas tunnel. But yeah, it didn't look nice at all.
Why? Is it just men that do these things?
Yes.
It is, isn't it? 'Cause I
men.
never
It's
see
also a
girls do
manly
this.
thing to do.
I always wondered why the sort of average age, life expectancy of men is always a bit lower than women.
It's the Darwin
And
Awards,
yeah,
isn't it?
because like 1 in 100 men just launches himself into a manhole like that. It's, that is why we don't make it as long as women. Anyway, let's have a look at some of these topics. The new RSPCA advert has faced backlash after being accused of being out of touch. Let's have a look and see what you think.
What you want, baby, I got it. What you need, no, I got it.
All I'm asking,
Just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit,
Just a little bit.
I ain't gonna do you wrong while you're gone.
I ain't gonna do you wrong.
All I'm asking.
So the charity's new campaign is part of a rebrand, the first rebrand they've had since the 1970s.
Yes.
And to do this, they hired creative agency JKR, no relation to J.K. Rowling, to help inspire everyone to create a better world for every animal. And they also hired advertising agency AMV BBDO, who have too many letters in the name. But it's not gone down very well. The charity have come under fire from farmers who feel that they're being labelled as villains who abuse animals. And some gardeners are angry too, being scolded for lawn mowing bees, if lawn mowing is a word, and stepping on snails. And some donors are furious. One said to the Daily Mail, "I won't give them money again. I am totally furious about the lack of respect they've shown for farmers and gardeners. Our money has been used to pay for this bonkers and wildly woke rebrand. It's an insult." And Gareth Wynne-Jones, a Welsh hill farmer, said the video was a kick in the teeth. Well, I suppose as long as it's not a sheep's teeth, Gareth. Now, Chloe, you seem like an animal lover. What do you make of this?
I mean, I don't think it as bad as you've maybe painted it to be. I think it's the stuff where they bring in the insects where I think it gets a bit ridiculous, where
So you're fine
the
with-
swatting the spiders.
You're fine with insect abuse?
Well, I mean, we could get into a deep philosophical argument, but most of the consensus is that insects are not sentient, but then, say, animals
What
like...
you thought that spider in that
Spider's
advert could
very
sing.
intelligent.
I know.
It could
But
sing.
it's got talent.
OK, maybe that one. But on the whole, I think that it's fine to point out the ridiculousness of people thinking that a dog is on a way higher pedestal than a cow just because of our culture. Like, we had this whole hoo-ha where people said they were going to boycott the Olympics when they were going to put dog on the menu, but it's just, like, a different culture.
Right.
So I think pointing out that is fine, but going as far as to say stepping on snails is evil, or swatting a spider is evil, I think that's where it got a bit ridiculous.
Suzie, I mean, Chloe makes some good points, but dogs are made out of pet. Cows are made out of meat.
No, what it is, I think we've all misunderstood this advert. I think if you find an animal that can sing Aretha Franklin, you're not allowed to kill
You can
it.
have a bit of RES.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to kill any animal that can sing.
I loved the advert. I have to tell you, I grew up loving the RSPCA.
Yeah.
My mother used to rescue all sorts of stray dogs and other bits and pieces. And fantastic, we had a big farm, we had 18 horses and lots of dogs and cats and things like that.
Oh, my God, you're rich.
No, I'm far too rich. The reality, however, is they went a bit too far with the lobster, because I do love lobster.
Right.
And I think, and the snail, which you missed at the very end of the video, do check it out online. They've got this little singing snail. I do think that's a little bit too far.
Yeah.
The work they do is great. The RSPCA last year as well got into trouble in October because they were saying that the money from the lottery, about 74% of the money raised, went on admin and expenses.
Oh, right.
As opposed to the hard-hitting stuff about protecting animals.
Yeah.
Animals, you should, I'm with Ricky Gervais on this, you should not be cruel to animals. The way that people are cruel to animals is abhorrent.
And what do you
should
think
call
of,
it out.
What do you
Right,
think
so
of
that's
Chloe's anti-insect
Well, I think it's
rhetoric.
disgusting. And the door that we're going to open, what is this? What sort of panel have you brought us this week, Leo? No, I think but there are religions as well that say that you should not turn around and hurt any of God's creatures.
I believe Jaina Buddhists, they sweep the floor, the ground in front of them to make sure they don't stand on
we will come
any
back
peoples.
as cockroaches.
OK, well, that's probably a step up for me. Anyway, let's move on to Tickle versus Giggle. This is an app intended to provide an online refuge for women. Is being sued by a transgender woman in Australia. Roxanne Tickle is suing the female-only social media platform Giggle for Girls after being blocked from using the app because the firm's CEO said that Roxanne was a man. Federal Court Justice Robert Bromwich heard Tickle has lived as a woman since 2017, has a birth certificate stating that her gender is female, had gender affirmation surgery and feels in her mind that psychologically she's a woman. However, Roxanne looks like a roadie for Def Leppard. This case is the first time alleged gender identity discrimination has been heard by the federal court in Sydney, and it goes right to the heart of the seemingly unresolvable conflict between biological sex and gender identity. So preserving the rights of women for their own spaces or allowing in women like me. So this could really set a precedent. I mean, I better ask the women what they think of this first. I mean, Suzie, do you think this goes to the heart of a lot of things that we've seen? Transgender access to female sports, changing rooms, other safe spaces, and now this online refuge.
Do you know what? I know that it's like really a subject that makes people go, oh, be careful to talk about it. But we never talk about trans men wanting to get into male spaces. We don't talk about it. Yeah,
because men are fine with that, because we're...
I'm not going to win the men's running race, let's be honest.
Well, this is it. And the thing is if you really, really feel like a woman...
I do.
Right. Then respect what women suffer. So for, you know what I mean, to understand that when women say, I've got to leave this studio late at night on my own, right, that's a real... I can't turn into Leo. I embody that. I don't feel it, I am it. Yeah. And I totally get why trans people feel at risk, but honour the fact that women, we are at risk. We've just had Afghanistan. It's not very comedy, but, you know, it's a different world.
It is so important to call it out, because actually it is respect for everybody in the conversation. And in the same way as you have sports which are designed on physicality to start with, and you have to have safe spaces for biological women, people who are women, you need to make sure that everybody feels safe in the conversation. Everybody. So whilst you absolutely respect people's right to do whatever they want to their own bodies, to identify as however they want, as soon as it impacts somebody else, then you need to have everybody's voice heard in that conversation. This was an online refuge for women.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's particular need and particular concern and safety issues that need to be addressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that I saw, just on a slightly different note, that I thought was ridiculous, is Riley Gaines, who I'm sure you know, the swimmer who had to compete against...
So she's a female swimmer.
Female swimmer who had to compete against Leah Thomas. But she said on the Joe Rogan podcast the other day something that we hadn't heard before, which was that at the same competition, not only did you have Leah Thomas, a guy with clearly a bulge in a women's swimming competition, you also had a biological female there, now transitioning to a man, who was competing in a pair of Speedos and nothing covering her top half. She hasn't had any surgery there, just on full display at the national championship.
Can you send me the pictures later? that sounds great. Yeah, this is just making sport much more interesting as far as I can see. Moving on, Rishi Sunak has been blasted for destroying the reputation of Adidas Samba trainers. Let's have a look at the state of him. There he is.
There he is.
Oh, see what ruins this. What ruins this is the fact that he's wearing like a suit. He's wearing suit trousers and a tucked-in shirt with trainers. You can't do that unless you're commuting and you're jogging to the office.
I think that's right. You can see. Yes, I've got some nice shoes on.
You do.
Thank you. What I love about it is that he went on LBC and it was quite funny actually. He was quite funny about it. He was talking to Nick Ferrari and he sort of turned around and said, "Yes, I've completely ruined your mate's street cred." And probably all the people who would normally wear those trainers are going to say, "Well, Rishi wears them. I'm not going to." It's like reverse endorsement from a celebrity.
Yeah. Well, in fact, we've got the Prime Minister's fulsome apology to Adidas Samba fans. Let's have a look.
Well, first of all, I just issue a fulsome apology to the Samba community. But in my defence, I would say I have been wearing Adidas trainers, including Sambas, and others, in fact, for many, many years.
I mean, I guess...
Politicians, they apologise too much lately.
But that was a joke. That was a joke.
It was a funny joke. It was good.
I think there's a little bit of truth in it.
Yes.
Their apologies doesn't mean anything anymore.
And do you think it's impossible for a politician to be... Like, if I don't know, Jay-Z or somebody was wearing the trainers, everybody would think, oh, that's great for the trainers.
It would have been better to run
Do you think a politician could ever be cool? I guess Obama was
Obama was very cool. He's still cool.
Javier Milei?
Javier Milei, the guy, get ahead, get some hair.
See, he could get away with the trainers, but Rishi couldn't. He keeps on trying
Tony
to be
Blair,
cool.
when he first went in, he was the rock star. People forget. People go from loving somebody to really hating them. When he went in, he was a rock star. There was a similar guy in Japan who was prime minister who didn't look very traditional in the suits and everything, but he had this long flowing locks and things like that. That's the way to do it. You became a popular prime minister.
But it doesn't always work. I mean, William Hague tried to wear a baseball cap.
Yes.
And, it just looked like there's something wrong with him.
I think that people, they put prime ministers into two different boxes. You've got the nerds and then you've got, like, the jocks like Boris Johnson. Someone actually made a spreadsheet and noted that there's a trend that we always alternate between the nerds and the cool guys.
Oh.
It always switches. It's gone on for years with very few exceptions. But I think what Rishi...
By your analysis, that would mean that Keir Starmer is going to be a really cool prime minister.
Maybe he'll be the one to break the trend. But Rishi
He's going to come out dressed like the Fonz and be like,
I mean, Rishi needs to just accept that he is a nerd and people see him as a nerd and people just want him to just get on with the job that he has rather than trying to do all these stunts where he looks cool. I think what happened here is he said to his guys, like, what can I do to look more down with the kids, to look more real and working class? And they're like, you know what, take your tie off and put the trainers on and it will look really cool. And it hasn't gone down well. Now he's trying to spin it off.
He wears Prada is what he does on his feet and works on it.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Prada. I mean,
Prada. He wears these Prada.
Because I mean, you see, when you see somebody like Putin wearing a $3,000 jacket, Suzie, it just highlights the fact, or Kim Jong-un or someone, it just highlights the fact that they're in such an elevated position when everybody else in the country is starving.
I know, but I lost my train of thought. I was so listening to you talking about he wears Prada on his feet. How do you know this stuff?
I know this stuff. I do my research. But I'll tell you what I love about it as well. And I love your theory that people go from somebody really extravagant, first of all, to somebody a bit staid. It's like John Major came in after Maggie Thatcher. Boris Johnson, when he started, he was the Carlsberg of prime ministers because he could reach part of the electorate that nobody else could. He then turned into this Marmite character. So watching the whole media roller coaster of emotion is brilliant. So I like that. We could work on that basis because we could then mould an appropriate politician to fit that mould.
Well, fun enough, viewer of the show, Paul sent in a joke about Marmite and the Scottish Hate Crime Act.
Oh, yeah,
he said, in Scotland, you're just it's like Marmite, you love it. Because you're not allowed to hate it. Anyway, I thought no, he delivers it better. Anyway, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, a Gary Barlow scammer tried to relight someone's fire and take that money she had in her bank account. Plus, I'll show you what happened when a guy was rudely awakened by his maid. Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Gary Barlow's in the news again, and not for tax reasons this time, but first, I promised I would show you what happened when a group of lads woke up their friend.
Glorious.
A bit of friendly fire there. Do you remember the happy slapping era, Suzie?
I do. I remember the Tango Man started that.
It was Tango Man, wasn't it? I remember. Absolutely glorious.
Bursting people's eardrums.
That would be a hate crime now.
Well,
absolutely.
Tango Man.
Sorry, that was a trend.
That was,
It was a trend.
So I think it was the 90s, there was a trend for, there was an advert for Tango where somebody went up and slapped somebody in the...
You've been
it wasn't a trend to just go around in public and start bursting.
There was that as well. The 90s were a very violent time, much like 2024. Anyway, moving on. A woman has been catfished by a 24-year-old Nigerian man pretending to be Gary Barlow. I've got to read some of this out because it is great. So Janet Smith, she's 62, she believed she was talking to the Take That singer for about a week after she added him as a friend on Facebook. The fake Gary bombarded her with compliments and messages and said he had split up. I'm assuming from his wife, not from the band. But she grew suspicious. I mean, wow, she's good.
She's very good,
got a
very
Poirot
good.
here, you know what I mean? She should be doing the post office inquiry. And eventually convinced the scammer to reveal his true identity. The cheat said that he was actually a 24-year-old man from Nigeria and was sorry for lying to her, but told Janet he really did love her and asked for cash. She said he was kind, he was nice, he was really lovely, saying, "Good morning, good evening, I've seen your videos because I love to dance." The words were really posh. "I'm in a meeting now and I'm practicing for a concert." I mean, those are pretty posh words, to be fair. And Janet said, elderly people, she warned elderly people, because they're going to be adding these celebrities, they're going to be conning these old people. I understand that they're poor and they have to get money for their family, but people might lose a lot of money over this. And it's also giving celebrities a bad name.
Yeah, she's fallen prey, and all the Gary Barlow gags, as you said, from Take That to other bits and pieces. The scandal is this: about £88 million last year in the UK was spent on romance fraud.
I thought you were going to say it was spent on fake Gary Barlow.
And Prada trousers. No, but you're working on that sort of basis. So it's a terrible, terrible industry. Catfishing is what it's called, where you're basically pretending to be somebody online. Lots of people are very vulnerable, and as a result of it, they do that. Lloyds Bank worked out that it was about 13 grand is lost for elderly people.
That's the average. The average. Oh my God, that's terrible. I mean, Susie, you'd be perfectly placed to do a catfish because you are the world's leading Marilyn Monroe impersonator.
I'm sitting here thinking, number one, why would she need to give Gary Barlow money? That's the first, warning. I need money from you. You're Gary Barlow. You've got so much money, you're trying not to pay tax, right? But this is here, I'm thinking this is quite a good idea because, you know, these sound like my text messages. Good morning, good evening, can I have some money? And I look, you know, I'm already doing this.
but it's a scandal. So what happened? And I was looking at the figures for this. So Lloyds Bank, who we spoke to about this, they say on average a victim is about 7 grand. Right. It's also youngsters as well. Some of them were as young as 10 years old.
I'm amazed they know who Gary Barlow is.
Oh no, but it wasn't just Gary Barlow, but it works on that sort of basis. But it's people looking for romance online, and it's made worse now because of my pet subject about AI.
Yeah.
So artificial intelligence means
you can
that you can
fake voices.
You can fake voices. You can have basically people will look as though you're really speaking to Leo when you're not, and you're working on that sort of basis. So now it's going to massively increase. But it was 88 million last year in the UK. It's a horrendous industry, and people, if it's too good to be true, it isn't true. So we should absolutely warn people about it. And I felt sorry for the woman when I saw this story.
So if Gary Barlow messages you, just do some checks before you believe it's Gary Barlow.
If I message you though, send me.
I will do that.
The Royal Navy recruits no longer need to prove that they can swim in our next story. Anyone seeking to join the senior service won't have to pass a 30-minute swim test prior to signing up, but they will get swimming lessons on the job. This comes as the military are in the midst of a recruitment crisis. A source has said that it's a sign of true desperation as standards are cut to bring in more recruits. I mean, this is a bit worrying, isn't it? Britain used to rule the waves and now we can't produce enough seamen, so to speak. Andrew?
Yes, I think you're absolutely right here. And I love what you said beforehand is now the Russians don't need to shoot it, they just push it into the water. What I love about it is firemen don't need to be, they can be scared of heights and they can do that. You can have a doctor who can pass out when they're a surgeon. All of that sort of stuff is... The reality is this. It used to be that you have to take a 30-minute test to prove that you can swim before you get in. Now what they're saying is we need the recruits. We will still train you. If you failed that 30-minute test, you would still basically be trained on the job. They're now turning around and saying, you don't need to do it in your own time, do it on our time and we'll pay you for doing it.
So what they're basically saying is if you can't swim, the taxpayer is going to pay for you to learn how to swim to whatever the Navy level is. I mean, why don't we just take people who know how to swim anyway and save the taxpayers money?
The problem is, Susie, that we don't have enough. We've got a real crisis in military recruitment because, I mean, patriotism and things like that have been seen as basically illegal.
Although, if you do see online, there was that guy that teaches people to swim by just throwing them in the water.
Right.
And that is actually a proven way.
That's what my dad did to me.
So do you think this could be? How old were you when he did that to you?
No. We actually had these swimsuits that looked like bomber vests, to be honest, as well. Where rather than having armbands, you've got a bathing suit that's got polystyrene blocks going all the way around you that looks like bombs, and you gradually take them out as you get better at swimming.
Oh, as you become more buoyant.
Yeah. But it looks really dodgy, as well as making you you look obese.
Right. I mean, I kind of want to wear one of those. Not to swim, just for fun.
It sounds a lot of fun, doesn't it?
I'm naturally built for buoyancy.
Hey. Henry VIII was as well.
Girls always float.
Started.
Right, well, up next is Mark Dolan tonight. What have you got for us this evening, Mark?
Leo, what a brilliant show. Great to have you back. Listen, we've got O.J. Simpson's lawyer live on the show. Ooh. Did O.J. Simpson kill his girlfriend? Also tonight, we're going to be talking about the RSPCA, who have gone woke and made people feel bad for eating meat. They're anti-farming, anti-human, in my opinion. Plus, I'm delighted to say that in the big story, we'll be debating Angela Rayner. That is the scandal that won't go away.
That sounds amazing, and what a coup having one of O.J. Simpson's lawyers.
Wow.
And he was fully exonerated in court, by the way, just like Michael Jackson. Anyway, thanks to my brilliant panel tonight, Suzie Kennedy, Chloe Dobbs and Andrew Eborn. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
And don't forget headline.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.